Hey everybody, this is Miss Teeny Baby Walker. I'm back again with another Bath and Chronicles for October. So come on in. Let me talk to you. Let me talk to y'all a little bit. It's been a while since I've been here, and you know, I think it's time to talk about what's going on because we can just have a dialogue about it. I want to talk about 3 different issues, and I'm going to try to get them out here quickly. But come on in and join me. Come on in and join me. What I'm looking to talk about today first is depression. And the reason that I'm talking about depression because it's prominent today. Look at the times we're living in. It's something to make you sad. And a lot of people are struggling and they're suffering. And so I would like to talk about depression and see if that's something that you can relate to. So the question that comes, I'm trying to wait a few more people come on in. So come on in. Please come on in and, share this video, share this live, whatever. But I wanted to talk about what it is and what it means. So, depression is basically called major depressive disorder. It is a disorder. It's not a weakness. It's a disorder. And the definition for it is it's a mood disorder. It causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. It's called major depressive disorder or clinical depression. You heard people talk about clinical depression. It affects how you feel, how you think, and how you behave, and it leads to a variety of emotional and physical problems, lots of problems. So sometimes you have trouble doing normal day-to-day activities, can't get up, can't get it going, and sometimes people have depression, they feel like life ain't worth living. They get to that point. So that's something to think about what it is. It's more than just a bout of the blues. You know what I'm talking about? We all get a little blues. You get so you wake up and like, I just feel a little melancholy today. I just ain't feeling up to it. My energy is low. It's just a bout of the blues, a little bout of the blues. And so when you get that, you can't, but real depression, see, I can come out of that bout of the blues, but in real depression, you can't just snap out of it like people think you can. You cannot just snap out of it. It's something that requires long-term treatment. People have to have treatment for that. And don't get discouraged because most people with depression, if they get medication, they feel so much better. That I know. So what are the symptoms? I want to talk a little bit about that. Depression might occur maybe one time in your lifestyle, but most of the time people have multiple episodes of depression. When that happens, they typically they have the symptoms that occur nearly every day, all day, just go through this on a regular. So some of the symptoms, and you see if you can relate to any of these or you know anybody that might be feeling that way, but some of the symptoms are feeling of sadness, tearfulness, just wanting to cry all the time, feeling emptiness and loneliness. You can be in a crowd of people just lonely. Angry outbursts, irritability or frustration. People are and just over the smallest matters. You say, well, it wasn't that big a deal, but it was over the smallest matter. They blew up. Loss of interest or pleasure in almost all normal activities. Okay, including sex even. People don't even want to do that. They just have no interest in hobbies or sports or just lose interest in everything. It manifests as sleep disturbances, which means that sometimes it's insomnia, you can't go to sleep, and sometimes you're sleeping too much, can't wake up, just want to lay there in the bed all day. It also is tiredness, a lack of energy, so that when even the smallest task seems so monumental when you don't have that kind of energy. The other thing is reduced appetite. People who are very depressed don't want to eat sometimes. They don't want to eat and they lose weight. But on the other way, it could go the other way and they can have increased cravings for food and they gain weight. So you have to look at both sides of that coin. The other thing, anxiety, agitation, or restlessness. Well, sometimes I've experienced anxiety myself. And that means, just kind of that worrying about something that may or may not happen. And that's something I can work on and I can get out of it. But when people are really experiencing major depressive disorder, that they don't get out of it. They worry about this kind of stuff all the time. They're restless, they're agitated, and they're anxious. So pay attention to people around you, your friends, your family. There's also this slowed up thinking. The thinking is slow. The speaking is slow, or the body movements, they just don't seem like they're in it. trouble thinking and concentrating and making decisions, or just even remembering things. And when they have frequent or recurrent thoughts of death, suicide attempts, and even suicide. And sometimes it manifests as unexplained physical problems, such as backache, pain, or headaches. They don't know where they're coming from. So for many people with depression symptoms, they're usually severe and enough to cause noticeable problems in day-to-day activities, such as on the job, at work, at school, at social activities, and in your relationships with others, with your husband or the wife or the kids. You just have issues there, can't get along, can't get it together. So anyway, you don't really know why, because you can't put your finger on what the problem is. So now depression in children and teens looks a little different. When it comes to that, depression in kids, the symptoms may be sadness, irritability, clinginess, like want to hang on to you all the time. It could be that. Aches and pains, don't want to go to school, being underweight. In teens, sometimes the symptoms can include sadness and irritability, feeling negative and worthless. They have anger sometimes. It comes out in poor performance or poor attendance, don't want to go to school, feeling so misunderstood and extremely sensitive. Might turn to using recreational drugs, smoking marijuana, drinking alcohol, eating or sleeping too much, self-harm, kids cut, loss of interest in normal activities, and avoid social interaction, don't want to be around people. Now, it's interesting because depression in older people is one thing I want to say, it's not a normal part of aging. Depression is not something you're just going to go with the territory. No, it don't. It should never be taken lightly. And unfortunately, depression often goes undiagnosed and untreated in older adults because they feel reluctant to get the help. They feel there's a stigma. They don't want to get the help, so it feels a little bit reluctant to get some help. The other thing, memory difficulties. Yeah, you can't remember where you put things. They call it brain fog or whatever, but it happens a lot. Sometimes we all have it. I'm kind of going through it. Am I getting Alzheimer's? You forget where things are. But depression, when it's like that, that's for older people, it gets like that. The other thing that they feel is the physical aches and pains, and then there's fatigue, and they don't want to eat, and sleep problems, lose interest. And these are things that happen, but they're not caused by the medication you're taking or your medical condition. And often older people want to stay home rather than go out to socialize or doing anything new. They just rather not. And then too, suicidal thinking or feelings, especially in older men. So when do I see the doctor? How bad do it get before I have to get help? Well, if you feel depressed, you make an appointment to see your doctor or your mental health professional as soon as possible. If you're reluctant to seek treatment, talk to a friend or loved one or healthcare professional or a faith leader or a pastor or somebody you trust. Let them know what's going on. When do I need to get emergency help? Well, if you think you're going to hurt yourself or you attempt suicide, you call 911 in the United States or your local emergency number. And also, if you call your doctor, that's the first thing. They got a suicide hotline. In the United States, you can call or text 988 and you can reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's 24 hours a day. It's free and confidential. If you're a veteran, you can dial you can do the same thing, 988, and hit the option 1. And that's for the Veterans Crisis Line. And because these are people that are aware and familiar with what veterans might be experiencing. Or you can text 838-255 for the chat online for the vets. And also the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline has a Spanish language option too at 888-628-9495. So just to conclude, sum it up, reach out to a close loved friend if you're feeling like that. Talk to someone. Contact a spiritual leader, somebody in your community that you can trust. And just to end this, if you have a loved one who's in danger of suicide or who has made a suicide attempt, make sure that someone stays with that person and call 911 immediately. Or if you think you can do so safely, take them to the nearest emergency room. Okay, folks, so enough about depression, because you're talking about I get depressed. So the next thing I was thinking about was breast cancer. So that's it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October. And so there's a lot of questions about, because breast cancer becomes so prevalent, everybody says, and it's near and dear to my heart because I am a survivor. I was diagnosed in April 2017. I'm getting close to my 5-year mark of my last treatment. So there's something to think about. But, so what is it? What is it? What is it? Breast cancer. Well, first let me say that no matter how old you are, you can get breast cancer. No matter how old you are. And you have to be aware of your body and know your body and know what comes with your body. And you have to schedule regular checkups with your primary doctor, get your mammogram, all that kind of stuff. But I really wanted to concentrate a little bit on what causes it. What causes it? Breast cancer, what's the risk of it? Who's going to get it? So, high-risk breast cancer. So, this is talking about, hang on, just talking about people. Okay. We're going to talk about risk factors that you cannot change, that you may inherit. So, for instance, your age, you can't stop getting older. What you can have early breast cancer is when the cancer is found only in the breast or the nearby lymph nodes and hasn't spread to any other part of the body. And I'm grateful that was my case. It didn't spread. And so, but there's different types of cancer. So you have to understand if you have early cancer, what to do. But I don't want to talk about when you're diagnosed. I want to talk a little bit about what do I do before. What do I do before? Okay, so what it tells us is that there's some things you can control. One of the things, risk factors, getting older. Most breast cancers, 80% occur in women over the age of 50. And the older you are, the higher the risk. Some of the other risks that we talked about, I'm going to talk about here, is many things can affect your cancer or your chances of getting cancer. So ain't no one thing can do it. It results from a combination of the way we live, ourselves, our genes, and our environment. And so you can't predict who's going to get it and who's not. And so be sure that you get your mammogram. But here's some things you can do. You can look at the age of breast cancer risk. Getting older is the first thing we talked about. And I want to say men can get breast cancer too. So if your man is over 60, maybe you want to do a breast exam. But the risk you can't control is like getting older, and some other things you can't control, like having periods. When did you start having your periods? Women who started having their periods at an early age, like before 12 years old, they have a slightly increased risk of breast cancer. Slightly increased. Okay, and this is a small risk. When you go through the menopause, if you go through a later menopause, the average age is 52, your chance of getting breast cancer is also slightly increased. Dense breast tissue. Breast density. Oh boy, they tell you the time, you go, oh, your breasts are so dense. Oh my goodness. And the thing is, you say, okay, I don't know what that means. She said, well, my breast cute or something. And they never tell you what the breast density means. So breast density is the amount of breast tissue that compared to the fat tissue in your breast. If you have a high amount of breast tissue compared to the fat, you have what's called a high breast density. And this increases the risk of cancer. Almost all women of color have high density breasts. The denser the breast, the greater the risk. So breast density varies naturally between women. Different women have different types, and it only can be measured on a mammogram. But some other breast conditions that's not cancers you could have, and there's a few of them that they raise your risk a little bit, but they're not cancerous. One of the things that is your lifestyle. It also it raises your chances of getting cancer. So when you make small changes and start living well now, you can lower your chance of getting breast cancer. It don't guarantee that you're not going to get it, but it's leading a healthy lifestyle gives you a better chance. Alcohol. People who regularly drink alcohol, it is associated with a high risk of developing breast cancer. Being overweight or obese, your risk of developing breast cancer increases if you're overweight or obese after menopause. So you can reduce your risk by maintaining a healthy weight. And this ain't about body shaming. This is about what's right for you. What's a normal healthy weight for you? What might be, for me, I don't have to be a stick to be healthy, but I need to maintain a good, positive, healthy weight and take care of myself that way. And that way I reduce my chance of getting it again. Keep active. You can reduce your risk by being physically active for about 20 minutes a day. If you ain't got to do it, walk around your apartment for 24 days. Walk around your house for 20 minutes a day. You know, do something. Get up off the couch and do something. Because the longer you sit there, the more your chances are that you're going to get cancer. So, just so you know, keep active. Now, we all know smoking is a risk. Smoking. Well, there is growing evidence that smoking slightly increases the risk of breast cancer. The risk is higher in women with significant family history. Now, if anybody in your family close to first-degree relatives have had cancer, your chances of getting it are high. So just be aware of that. The younger a woman is when she starts smoking, the higher the risk. The risk, then that high risk remains for at least 20 years after you stop smoking. Wow. If you're pregnant, if you're having children, has a complex effects on breast cancer risk. Overall, in the long term, pregnancy reduces the risk of breast cancer. Breastfeeding your children slightly reduces your risk of breast cancer. The pill. Some of the women on birth control pills, let's talk about that. So you're taking the contraceptive pill, that slightly increases your risk of breast cancer. But when you stop using it within a few years, the risk disappears. HRT, hormone replacement, I really think that's happened to me because I was on HRT menopause symptoms for 10 years, and then I weaned myself off, and that increases your risk of breast cancer. And while you're taking it, and for a few years after stopping. If you have a family history of breast cancer, of course, it doesn't automatically mean you are at risk, but for most people, having a relative with breast cancer does not increase your risk. But however, a small number of women and men have an increased risk of developing breast cancer because they have a significant family history. There's some myths out there about breast cancer. For example, some people worry about using deodorants or wearing an underwire bra, but these things do not increase your chances for breast cancer. That's just people talking. Why is breast cancer, this question, why is it so common now? Being a woman and getting older, since the majority of breast cancer are diagnosed in women over age 50, how does that increase the risk of breast cancer development? After that, the biggest risk factor relates to your family history. Yeah, that's interesting. You know, how can you avoid getting it? Like I said, keep a healthy weight, be physically active, don't drink alcohol, or choose not to drink alcohol, or drink in moderation, and get off the birth control. Get off the HRT, the hormone pills. Get off this and birth control pills, and ask your doctor. You're gonna have to get off it and try another form of birth control if you don't want to get it. Who's most likely to get it? Women. Being a woman, older. Over 70% of women who develop this disease have these two risk factors. It increases as a woman gets older, and it's even more important after the age of 50. And most breast cancers are found in women 55 and older. But now that's kind of changed because they're finding it in women who in their early 30s are being diagnosed. So don't believe everything you hear. You know, it's not true. You could get breast cancer. It don't discriminate. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Those are strong risk factors. If you don't be exposed to radiation, that can do it. Just all kinds of things like that. But there's a lot of stuff out there to learn about. And talk to your primary doctor about your risk and know your family history. There's the warning signs they talk about. I'm going to run through these real quickly with y'all. If you have swollen lymph nodes under the arm or around the collarbone, isn't that interesting? If you just feel lymph nodes, or if you have swelling in any or all parts of the breast, any kind of swelling, any kind of skin irritation on the breast or dimpling, if you have breast or nipple pain, if your nipple retracts, if it's red, scaly, flaky, thickening, and it has a discharge. It's anything coming out your nipple ain't normal unless you breastfeeding. So make sure you know that. So anyway, so your risk, there's some things you can do to control how big a risk it is, but there's some things that you can't control. So just be aware. Do your self breast exams. Get your regular mammograms. And like I said, if they tell you you have dense breasts, you tell them, "Oh, thank you. Could you please schedule me for a 3D mammogram so we can look a little deeper? Because there may be something there that you're not seeing on the mammogram." Be your own best advocate. Open your mouth and speak up. They can do that. They can give you a digital or laser breast exam, or even an ultrasound if necessary. So, anyway, we talked about the risk. What causes breast cancer? Who knows? There's so much out there. The root causes of breast cancer. Breast cancer is not just one disease. It's a group of diseases that occur in the body. It's second only to skin cancer, and in the rate of it, way it occurs in women, and it's second to lung cancer in the mortality rates for women. So that's pretty up there. Each year, nearly 300,000 people are diagnosed with invasive breast cancer. Did y'all hear that? Each year, I'll say it again, each year, nearly 300,000 people are diagnosed with invasive breast cancer. Yeah, man, you can get it too, fellas. In the United States, over half of them have no known risk factors. So that means like 150,000 of them don't even have a risk factor. And family history accounts for only about 10% of them. Okay, that's interesting. Only 10% is based on family. But a large and growing body of research suggests that toxic chemicals are also causing an increase in the risk of developing this disease. So, toxic chemicals. But anyway, there's a lot that's going on, but there's a lot of information out there. You've been warned. You've been told what to look for. You've been advised to please get your mammogram on a yearly basis. Don't wait 2 years. Get your mammogram. And there's a lot of environmental things that could be linked to breast cancer. We don't know, but just know that most people, 70% of the people with breast cancer have none of the risk factors, but that don't mean that you don't get it. So that was that's my take on breast cancer. I'm a survivor, so I'm always going to be talking about breast cancer and how to avoid it and what to look for and how to take better care of yourself, because I don't want nobody have to go through that. And I don't want nobody have to die from breast cancer. It's not necessary. You can take better care of yourself. So anyway, that's that. But the one last thing I wanted to talk about on this chronicle was domestic violence, because this is domestic violence month. Also, they go hand in hand. You got the breast cancer, you got domestic violence. October is the month, and I'm an advocate for breast cancer survivors, and I always say survivors, never victim, survivor, and just that. With everything going on in the world today, people's tempers are short, their frustration levels are high, and things can pop off and someone could get hurt without even thinking twice about it. So be very careful. If you are in an abusive situation, here's my suggestion. I like to counsel people to get a safety plan. Make a plan. And if you know that eventually I can't take this anymore, I want out, don't just jump up, plan it. Plan your outing. So what you do is you start putting away things. Get a nice little bag and tell one of your trusted friends, somebody you can really trust, and put some change of clothes in there for you and the kids. Make sure you got copies of all important documents, birth certificates, anything you need. Make sure you got some medications, whatever you need to put in that, and then squirrel away a little money every week if you can. It's 5 here, 10 here, and give this to a trusted person. You got to find that trusted person, because if I have to leave home at 3:58 in the morning and I still got my slippers on and my pajamas and my kids, I'm running. I need to get somewhere where I can call you up and say, girl, I need that bag, and get to a battered women's shelter where I can get some help. So make a safety plan. A safety plan is like, if you're in the house and you ain't ready to leave yet and abuse is going on, make sure that you don't, when the argument or whatever snaps off, don't be in the bathroom, because that's a dangerous place to be, because you could hit your head on anything under this stuff. And don't be in the kitchen. Take it to the living room or something. Don't go in the kitchen, because there's too many knives and everything else in there. So, make sure somebody, if he's really violent, and you don't let him come to school and pick your kids, or let the school counselors know that this is a picture of this person. If you see him coming, call 911. Things like that. Let somebody know what's going on. If you see something, say something. So, with that said, that's it. That's it. I hope you enjoy Bathroom Chronicles. I do. I like making them. I don't do it very often, but then things pile up. I really want to talk about some things and put it out there and just give my take on stuff. And I like to, if you really like the Bathroom Chronicles, please subscribe. Please subscribe to my live, and subscribe to my videos on YouTube, Miss Teeny Baby Walker. and you can see the Bathroom Chronicles and the things that we've talked about, and it kind of goes full circle because we're back to this again. But that's what it's about. And be sure to give your opinion on what you think about what's said tonight. If you like what I'm doing, send me some stars. You're welcome to send stars. Not sure we'll take them. So thank you all for being here. One more thing I want to say. Be intentional about being safe. Love, peace, and hair grease.